Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Haunt Talk. In today's episode, we are going to be reviewing Cheeseman Fright Farm in Portersville, PA. That's where that's at. I wish I could look at the locations exactly, but I've been to this one many times.
Yeah.
Portersville, I think, is what it's technically called. Now, we went there last year, and, we were pretty impressed with it and stuff like that. And I do want to preface this review. We don't necessarily like being negative, but we also pride ourselves on being honest with our reviews. And I'm going to say it up front, not to want to spoil it, but I don't like to upset people. But this review is not going to be an overly positive review. I just want to state that up front because, anytime something does get a negative review, we tend to get a little bit of backlash about it, and I'm sorry, and this place has been good before, and maybe we just went on a bad night, but of course we're going to get more into the details of exactly why this experience really wasn't that great for us. This is probably going to be a little bit of a shorter review. If you enjoy Cheeseman and go every year, you'll probably still find enjoyment out of it, but if you do go every year, you probably, if you go to other haunts at all, you understand that every year is a little bit mixed. This is Kim's only ever second year, but I used to go all the time when I was younger, and some years are great, some years weren't so great. Unfortunately, this was kind of one of those not so great years, but kind of is what it is. Yeah. With that being said, we're just going to go ahead and get right into the review, which means it is time, as always, to refer to Book of the Dead! Book of the Dead! Book of the Dead!
To start off, we're always going to talk about sets and props. Well, we'll talk about them two separate things. So there's a hayride that starts off with, and then you go onto a walking trail. I remember last year there was a ton of sets on the hayride, a bunch of stuff.
There's more. I don't think they've ever had a ton of sets on the hayride, but there is definitely more than there was this year.
Yeah, there was maybe 4 sets, if that.
I don't even know if I would consider I would only consider there to be one actual set, which was at the very beginning. The other things were more of experiences that happened, but they weren't actual sets.
Well, the car had there was another car that was kind of abandoned and stuff, yeah. But I considered that a set.
I don't know if I do, but yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, there was nothing. Like he said, there was one set at the beginning with the what we called them last year, the Slipknot people.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And then, we got chased by a tractor. We got chased by a Jeep. Oh, the train. There was a train.
Yeah, the train. Okay, that was
2 sets.
There you
maybe.
Go. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But there was nothing else, and it was kind of boring.
Yeah, because there wasn't really much. There's really one spot where actors, maybe 2 spots where actors kind of came up to the tractor, and then there's you get chased by a fire-breathing tractor, which they've always had, which is cool.
Yes.
And there's another really cool section. These are definitely the highlights of the entire experience. With a Jeep that kind of drives around the hay wagon, and they fire blanks with a gun of some sort.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was about all besides the train. There was a train. I think this was new. It actually was a physical thing that would come out the hay wagon and of course blare its horn. I've seen it in many hay rides, but it was nice to actually see a physical moving train that they built.
That was neat.
Instead of just a blaring horn, which that was cool.
And then for the trail, I don't know. It was weird. So you walk into right away a clown thing with a vortex tunnel. It was really hard to pay attention to anything because it was so underlit and the terrain was just so awful.
Yes, to the point where I would venture to say that it was dangerous.
Yes.
At some points, they weren't just stairs; they were stairs with rocks and mud and stuff like that, and there was either no light or strobe lights. The way they do the strobe lights here is pretty nauseating. Strobe lights generally don't bother me, but these ones were actually really getting to me. And that's another big thing with this. There really wasn't many sets or props during the trail either. It was
No.
basically just lots of strobes and fog, which could be cool.
Yeah.
But nothing really happened to that, which we'll get into other categories like actors and scare factor. But like, there just weren't many sets and props to talk about. Just lots of really heavy strobes and so much fog you couldn't see in front of you.
Yeah.
Where last year it was similar, but the way they did it wasn't as obnoxious with the strobe lights. It was more of like, I remember they had like lasers like on top that kind of made it look like you were almost underwater.
Yeah. Yeah, that was really cool.
Yeah, but they didn't really do that. It was more of just strobe lights, and there was some lighting. They did have like that rat puppet thing that they've had for years now.
Yeah.
That was there.
And they had the snake.
At the very end, it was a smaller snake, but they also have like a snake barn that you can go into like after you're done with the haunt, and they have like a little photo op at the end. But yeah, like in last year too, there was more like buildings and stuff you went through.
Mm-hmm.
And this year there wasn't much. They had a couple right at the front, and then it was just kind of walking around on super sketchy terrain.
Yeah, in like corn. Like they put corn stalks up and stuff like that.
In years prior, it was more of a maze where there was multiple different directions you could take for the corn. But this time it was a very linear path. There wasn't multiple ways you could go. Like they still had the corn stalks, but there wasn't as many, and it was very linear. Like there was,
It kind of reminded me of corn stalkers at Cedar Point, where it's literally
Right.
like one path, but you're surrounded by corn.
And a big problem with it is the way Cheeseman's always done it is once you get off the wagon, they don't split you up really. They just like go.
Yeah.
And it used to be where you would kind of split up from everyone else, and it wouldn't be such a bottleneck situation because everyone would be kind of flowing around this like multi-directional corn maze type of thing the way they did it. But this year, since it's all kind of, it's linear, like I said before, there's not really ever a spot where you're not just conga lined with the other people. I don't know. That's really all there is to talk about for sets and props.
There were coffins.
Oh yeah, there's coffins. They had some coffins.
That was about it. It was just, it was so lackluster. Yeah. So sets and props, we gave them a 5.
Yeah, and everyone was commenting in the group. It wasn't just us about how sketchy the stairs were going down them. Like there's so much now. Keep in mind, not only was it dark, but the area is so filled with fog and there's no light that, I mean, if you're not paying really good attention, like if you're someone that's a little bit more freaked out about these things and not desensitized to them like we are, like it's very risky. Like I can definitely see someone falling. There needs to be some kind of light on there. And I mean, the strobe light ones were a little bit easier, but the ones that are like basically pitch black, like I do feel like they were fairly dangerous. But that'll move us into actors. There was not many, and I understand that is something that all haunts have been, every industry in the world, really, or in the United States at least, is having problems finding workers.
Yes.
But not only was that a problem, the ones that were there, most of them, I'd say 90% of them, in the haunt at least, did nothing.
Yes.
They just stood there.
They literally would come out from behind something and just stand there.
Yeah.
In front of you, and you're like, okay, and just walk around them.
I would say 3 or 4 in total I saw that were actually actively trying to scare people.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's one thing, like, I understand if, like, a conga line happens and it's not in the actor's control that he might not be able to get, like, or they might not be able to do, like, good jump scares, but at least interact with the audience. Mm-hmm. I'm wondering if, like, because, like, I can't even imagine working in this as an actor. Like, the way they have the strobes and the fog, it was nauseating to be in. And again, if you're like, oh, well, I go through haunted houses all the time and there's strobe lights, it doesn't bother me. Like, this is different.
Yeah.
So do we, but the way they had them staggered, it was rough to get through.
It was very rough, to the point that I almost wanted to close my eyes and just grab his shirt.
I did a few times when, like, the line would, because sometimes we would get into, like, these bottlenecked situations where the line would just completely stop, and I would close my eyes for, like, 10 seconds just to kind of give myself some bearing, because it was really starting to bother me. It's unfortunate. Now, the actors, the couple that were on the Hayride, they did okay. They kind of jumped up there, and the guy with the chainsaw was like, it's a big chainsaw.
It was a really long chainsaw.
It was a big chainsaw, and, like, he was kind of interacting with some children that then were, like, huddling on top of me because they were sitting in the seat beside me. So, I mean, the couple that were there were good, and, of course, the guy that was in the Jeep, that's fine, I suppose, but that's about it. Except the ones that are in there, like, almost none of them tried, and, like, they're just kind of wearing almost basic street clothes. It's kind of hard to tell who was an actor.
Yeah. Well, at one point, one of the kids that was in the group in front of us, he actually kept going back and scaring people. He kept breaking from his group and going and scaring people, and then he would show back up and stuff like that because obviously, it was boring.
Yeah, it was pretty boring. Yeah, actors, we also gave a 5. And I mean, honestly, that's a little bit generous of a score too, with as little interaction there was. But I mean, there was a couple ones that were decent, and the Hayride is probably the reason it is a 5 and not even lower.
I was just gonna say that.
Yeah.
So that moves us on to scare factor.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, with what we've said, there was not really any point that Did you say that did anybody get you
I
at
got
all?
one
You got
scare.
once. Yeah, I didn't get any.
He popped out in one of those nauseating areas with the where they had the light shining right at you. Somebody got me in that, but that was it.
And it's also weird, and this is actors and scare factor, I guess, thinking back on it, yes, there wasn't many actors, but there would be areas, earlier on when you get off the hay wagon, you're I don't even know, you're in this room and it's so filled with fog, all you can see is kind of like a door of light, which is actually kind of a cool effect.
Yeah.
I don't even know if it's an intended thing, but they just filled with so much fog that kind of looked cool, but there was not one actor in there. All it needed was one, and they could have scared you, but then there's other spots where you would go and there'd be 3, here, here, and here, but none of them are doing anything.
Yeah.
Why not, if you're short on actors, at least space them out? Mm-hmm. But no, it would be dead area, dead area, dead area, then there would be quite a few of them in one area, again, not doing anything usually. It's we'll just spread them out more.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's an organizational thing on the people that are kind of directing the attraction, or if it's just the actors kind of doing whatever they want. Maybe. But either way, I would chalk it up to not being trained correctly then, I guess. But yeah, scare factor obviously was not very scary at all, so we gave that a 3 because, Kim got scared once, I got scared 0 times, and I didn't really see almost anybody that we were with. I saw one group get scared once, and that was about all I saw from other people too. Now, value, it is $25. If you use a credit card, there's a $2 service fee. The Hayride was 7 minutes long. Total was 20 minutes. That's giving a couple extra minutes because I kind of forgot the timer, but that's about average. I would say is 20 minutes is what it generally takes. Mm-hmm. And last year it was a bit longer. We did look; it took at least 25 minutes last year. So and it went up $5 actually in price. Last year it was $20, and this year it is $25. And it's gotten shorter and worse. So
not good.
Yeah, it's not good, and it's just unfortunate because I expect it to be better this year because we kind of talked to one of the people last year, and they were obviously having troubles with things because last year was 2020, and a lot of places did, and I expected it. I'm well, if they were able to do at least this in 2020, 2021 should be better.
Yeah. And
it's not, and we're not the only one that thinks this either. We actually went to another haunt after this called Fearscapes, and that review should be up after this one. And this person had actually just come there too. We didn't know he was there, but he recognized us from the channel and was talking to us, and he agreed that this is the worst year. I think he did say that this is the worst year he's been to Cheeseman as well. And, maybe it was just an off night, for actors at least, but just the other stuff was objectively worse. Mm-hmm. So maybe you just had a bad night for actors. Maybe you'll have a better experience in that regards when you go, though. But for value, we gave it a 6. $25 seems pretty expensive for what we got.
Yeah. So that brings us to our overall score, and we gave them a 5.
Yes. So very average haunt. I wouldn't say that this is terrible, but I would definitely say that it's disappointing.
Yes.
Considering, last year we gave it an 8.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's upsetting. I don't know if we'll go to it next year or not, but I'm hoping that it does get better. If you went there this year and you disagree, respectfully let us know. Let us know if your experience was better, that maybe the actors were a lot more on point. And again, we're not giving bad reviews to put them down or anything like that. We do these for 2 reasons. Actually 3. We love going to haunts, and it gives us this more of an excuse to go to them.
Yep.
Because it's not cheap. 2, to let people that are attending the haunts, kind of figure out which way they want to go. And also not even that, but a lot of people like to look up reviews of things after they go to things to kind of sometimes you don't have people to talk about with it. And for 3, for the haunt themselves to kind of, if they want to watch them and see how they can improve, and kind of see an in-depth look at what basically an average, I don't know if we necessarily consider ourselves, we're more of enthusiasts, I guess, but a consumer's take on their attraction is in things that were liked and things that were disliked. So these reviews are never meant to be malicious. They're never meant to be taken, in necessarily a negative way. If you go and have fun, that is great. This is just our experience. So, if you went and had a great time, we are happy for you. We unfortunately did not have a great time, and I know that this place has potential, and I think that's the thing that upsets me, the most about it is last year we really liked it, and we were excited to go this year, and then it was just kind of,
meh.
It was just kind of meh. But, that being said, again, let us know what you thought. If you like our videos, make sure you subscribe to the channel, click the like button, and ring the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future uploads. There should have been quite a few other videos this week as well, so make sure you will watch those reviews. But as always, we will see you guys in the next video.
Bye.